Hello! Welcome back to Storytime with Quefish, Roomba of Doom by GayDemonicDisaster. This is chapter 10. Yes, I know I'm running late. But it's okay. I've got my pomegranate stuff going on. But it's been a hell of a weekend since like last Thursday, and it's Tuesday now. Okay, I've been saving them up, so as usual, cold reading. Chapter 10, Take Your Vacuum to Hell Day. You can't be serious, Crowley. Why not? It'll be fun. Take your child to work day as a human thing. I hardly think it applies to demons, especially when said child is an electrical appliance and work is the deepest pit of hell. You're the one who said I should take him out more. You take Lydia to the park so she can mow some grass. I take Bob to head office. He can, I don't know, vacuum up the brimstone or something. He's a demonically possessed creature, Aziraphale. They can hardly object. He'll fit right in. Aziraphale sighed dramatically. Very well, then. I'll take Lydia to the park. You take your demonic offspring to hell. Just make sure you bring him back again. And keep him away from the pits of boiling sulfur. We'll never get the smell out if he decides to go for a swim. He'll stink of rotten eggs for weeks. Would he survive that, though? Boiling sulfur. The first obstacle was the escalator. Hell hadn't exactly been developed with accessibility in mind. Crowley growled with irritation. Fine. They'd use the service elevator instead. The dark, filthy one that reeked of stale urine. True, he could have picked Bob up and carried him under his arm, but he also didn't want to look like one of those people who carries their dog around in a damn handbag in the process. Besides, that wasn't the point. Bob deployed his red LED lights once the lift doors opened. Not because he was angry, but because he wanted to fit in and look demonic. Aww. Should have gotten, like, little, things for his, googly eyes. Angry eyebrows. Before they left home, Crowley had, son of a bitch, Crowley had put a pair of little red plastic horns on his lid as well. Bob had been delighted at that and had rushed into the plant room to beep threateningly at the plants in his new costume. The little vac was delighted to find that the floor was filthy with grit and dust, and set about sucking it up eagerly as he followed Crowley through the dimly lit hallways. Eventually, Crowley stepped through a door into a waiting room by an office. He sat down and snapped his fingers to summon a few OHP acetates. Acetates? Holy shit. That's taking me back. OHP acetates to check his presentation over. He wished hell would catch up with the times and invest in a smartboard or tablets or something. Oh well. Bob trundled around under the chairs, sucking up dirt and humming quietly to himself. Crowley got out his phone and started scrolling while he waited. Bob worked his way around the edge of the room until he came up against a door that wasn't properly closed. Don't do it, bro. He nudged it and went through, unseen by anyone. A little while later, Crowley's peripheral vision picked up on something snaking along the floor. He looked up from his phone. Bob was back and had a pale lilac... Oh, no! A pale lilac scarf caught around his brushes. I see what you did there. He was tugging it along behind him. He came up to Crowley and beeped plaintively for help. The demon looked down in confusion and bent to try to untangle the scarf from the Roomba. It looked familiar somehow. A moment later, an extremely angry-looking Beelzebub stormed into the room. They glared at Crowley sitting there with the pale purple scarf in his hands, glared at the Roomba, snatched the scarf from Crowley with narrowed eyes without saying a word, turned on their heel, and strode back inside into their office again with it, slamming the door behind them. Crowley suddenly remembered where he recognized the finely tailored article of clothing from with a smirk. That this was going to be delightful to taunt bees with later, he thought. A few minutes later, a familiar face walked past the waiting room. Crowley called out after them. "Oi, Eric, got a minute?" The disposable demon backtracked and stood in the doorway. "Who, me?" he asked, surprised to be being hailed by a senior demon. "Yes, you. Need you to do me a favor. Can you sit here and watch Bob for me while I have a meeting with Beelzebub? I won't be long, but don't want the little hellion wandering off where he shouldn't again. I think he just annoyed the Prince of Hell." "Bob?" Eric looked confused. Crowley whistled. The Roomba trundled out from underneath the chairs and beeped. Eric stared. "That's a vacuum cleaner." Bob flashed his red LEDs angrily and twirled around, showing off his little red plastic horns. "Oh." Crowley grinned. "Nope, he's a demon, aren't you, Hellspawn? Go on, I let you have it back especially for today. Show him." Bob belched a lick of flame across the floor from his flamethrower attachment. The disposable demon leapt several feet backwards in alarm. Crowley smirked. "See? Demon. Just keep him in here and make sure he doesn't get into any more trouble, okay?" A moment later, Crowley was summoned into Beelzebub's office. He sauntered in with an easy grin, tasting the air with his tongue with mild interest. Ugh. Beelzebub's brow furrowed at that. Crowley licked his lips and gave half a laugh. "Your shirt's not done up right," he commented, just for the enjoyment of seeing the briefest expression of panic cross the Prince of Hell's features as they looked down to check their clothing in alarm. They didn't need to confirm it anyway. Crowley's excellent sense of smell already told him who had been in the office before him, and who that lilac scarf had belonged to. "Anyway," Crowley continued, "I got that presentation you wanted." When Crowley came out again, he found Eric sitting cross-legged on the floor, wielding a laser pointer and skittering it across the floor while Broom chased after the dancing point of light. He looked up when Crowley appeared with a smile. "This is better than the Hellhound puppies. He's only burned me once so far, and I haven't been bitten yet." Crowley made a mental note to get a laser pointer and whistled for Bob to follow him. The Roomba burped one last gout of flame toward Eric and trundled out after Crowley. He decided they should walk home via the park and meet up with Aziraphale and Lydia there. They found Aziraphale sitting on the bench reading a book near the duck pond, while Lydia grazed at the grass behind him contentedly. Bob scurried over in a flurry of delighted beeps to circle the mower and headbutt her affectionately. Crowley took a seat next to his angel and pressed a fond kiss to his cheek. "Afternoon, love." Aziraphale kissed Crowley back and hummed happily. "Hello, dear. Did Bob have a good time today, then?" Crowley grinned wickedly and looked at the two appliances cavorting together on the grass. "Oh, yeah. He made quite an impression. Got some juicy gossip for you, too." He related the scarf incident and what had happened in Beelzebub's office. Aziraphale's face was the image of scandalized shock. "Really? I'd never have thought of those two." Crowley grinned and nodded. It was definitely him. I'd recognize that smell anywhere. And the scarf, of course. Anyway, who are we to talk? Kinda nice to know we're not the only ones. He broke off as Lydia rumbled up to Aziraphale and nudged his shin insistently. She pivoted and pointed down the path a little. Aziraphale looked up and his features set into a disapproving scowl. "Robert J. Crowley. You get back here this instant, you delinquent boy." The Roomba was chasing a small terrier on a long flexi lead. which was tugging so hard that his owner was at risk of falling over. Crowley joined in. "Oi, Hellspawn! Get your hockey puck butt back here right now!" Bob paused in his mischief, spun around, and crept slowly back to the angel and demon on the bench. He flashed his LEDs red at Lydia briefly when he rejoined them, then spun around to face away from her, sulking under the bench. Tattletale. Crowley laughed. "Don't be mad at her because she grassed you up, Bob. She's a bloody angelic lawnmower. Of course she's going to grass you up." I've never heard that phrase before. Anyway, that was adorable. The lilac scarf. All right. Time for chapter 11. Bye!